In this video, we are talking about Walt Disney World fifth park rumors. I know I never thought we'd be here talking about a fifth park at Walt Disney World, but there are rumors that might be the case. We're also going to talk about Velocicoaster having some issues. We're also going to talk about Tiana's Bayou Adventure height requirement up next on OG50. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We are talking all about Walt Disney World fifth park. We're talking about the Velocicoaster being down for a while now. And we're also going to talk about Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Some news dropped in regards to that. But before we start our festivities, I got the one, the only, George the Italiano, host of our Walt Disney World show here on the channel, Citrus Corner. George, welcome back, sir.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be back on. Yep, just doing what we do best, and that's diving deep with all this great information from the Walt Disney Company, and even touch a little bit on Universal. So it's always a good time.
Yeah, you can dig a little deeper today.
Always
dig a little deeper.
Always dig a little deeper. Yep.
There you go.
Always digging.
Always digging. If you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And that's what happens when you dig a little deeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, buddy.
There you go. And down below, we got the one, the only, Mr. Michael Ebba is in the house. Ebba, welcome back, sir.
OG, thank you so much for having me on. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to today's video.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media.
Of course, you can find me on Instagram, Michael Ebba, and then also on Twitter, now X, at Michael Ebba 1991.
There it is. Follow this man on X. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Our first story of the day, the Velocicoaster over at Island of Adventure. So this has been kind of an ongoing story. Past few days, the Velocicoaster over there at Universal Islands of Adventure has been closed. We haven't really heard much as to why. We kind of still don't really know officially why, but this is actually from OrlandoThemeParkZone.com, link down below. It says here, Jurassic World Velocicoaster at Universal Islands of Adventure closed for, quote, the foreseeable future. So that's kind of crazy, right? So it says here that the Velocicoaster at Island of Adventure will be closed for the foreseeable future. Inside Universal forum user and Orlando theme park enthusiast Tommy Hawkins posted the following. It's down for the foreseeable future, trying to get a handle on what's wrong, though. Okay, and it says here from another poster that that Velocicoaster. So it says here, Velocicoaster has seemingly been having a lot of issues lately. This person went to Universal Orlando over the weekend, and on Saturday the ride was down from 9:30 to 4:30 p.m. And then it reopened, but it was only running 2 trains. With the output of it were 4 trains. So we go a little bit further down here, and we have another update. It says here that from what Tommy Hawkins understands, it's basically a culmination of it basically being a full scheduled maintenance to get things back on track, no pun intended. The ride hasn't had one since it opened 2.5 years ago. Has run more times than some entire other parks coasters combined. And he says it's obviously crazy fast. So, not a whole lot of detail with this. Basically, the coaster has been running for 2.5 years. It's really fast. I don't know. We don't really know what is going on here. But the rumor is that there is some part of that is broken or malfunctioned, and the coaster manufacturer, which is Intamin, is located in Europe. So it's going to take a while for that part to get here to the States. And so this thing might be down for several weeks, maybe even a month, which is absolutely crazy. Real quick, and then I'll take it over to George. But this is interesting, right? Things happen. I totally understand it. My biggest issue with this whole thing is Intamin. Intamin has a history of problems. Okay, Incredicoaster is Intamin. It has its issues. Accelerator, I believe, at Knott's, which has had a huge amount of issues, is Intamin. This company has its problems, and I really don't understand why Universal and Disney kind of go back to this company, because it seems like an issue. Things break down, and then that they're located in Europe, so now we got to wait 3 to 4 weeks for the part to arrive, and it just seems like a big mess. I don't know. It's a little frustrating. George, what are your thoughts on this, brother? Like, where do you stand with it, dude?
Yeah, I do agree with you. That company has been quite the talk when it comes to a lot of issues proclaiming for certain roller coasters at the theme parks, not just with Universal, but as you mentioned with Disney, with Knott's Berry Farm, and what have you. So I do wish that these companies would kind of maybe look elsewhere if they're going to do something as technical as these kind of coasters. Um, now going off of that, and I do know that things do happen and everything. One can even argue what's going on with Rock and Roller Coaster right now. That ride's been done several times within the last year because of the acceleration of going from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, and the tires on the coaster itself. How should I put this? Disney has not been using the top-notch brand. So to kind of cut costs, they're having to take the ride down to keep on replenishing the wheels. But I think in time, Disney's going to have to do something with that because, they're just going to have issues. Now, proclaiming to the Velocicoaster, one could then argue to say, okay, well, this is a very complex coaster. It goes well over speeds over Rock and Roller Coaster, and it runs constantly, which it does. You got to think these rides run every single day, and the popularity of these rides has to allow the theme parks to literally not really have any downtime, and
Yeah.
this is the kind of stuff that happens. But at the same time, this ride is a baby. It's not that old.
It's not that 2.5 years, even 3 years. I mean, even really 4 years isn't really a long time. And this is the issue that I have. I'm not even really blaming Universal. Things happen, things break down, whatever. It's kind of more for me personally, like more of the fan reaction, right? It's like if this was a Disney attraction, I wouldn't see this much apologizing on Twitter for this company. I mean, fans would be outraged that what's going on? This thing's going to be shut down for a month. Oh my God, get it together, Disney. Get it together, Mouse House. It's like, what I'm saying? I don't see that with Universal. And then I see a lot of like, well, a lot of stuff happens at Disney, which is true. But it's like, here's my issue when it comes to that, right? It's like we're 24/7 kind of holding Disney accountable on Twitter. It's like really to a fault almost how insane, people kind of hold the Mouse House accountable, right? One time, right? Universal has a thing. And it's like, not even this one time can we just say, hey, Universal, like what's going on? We got to bring up Disney. It's like this one time, can we just hold, just have that conversation without bringing up Disney. And look, this situation, a lot of people don't know what's going on. It could be a part. That's what the rumors are, but we don't really know for sure. And all that, it might not be Universal's fault. It could be, we don't know. But if this was Disney, I can tell you it wouldn't be getting the pass that it's getting right now with the community. And that's frustrating for me. Go ahead, Michael. What are your thoughts on this overall, brother?
No, it's funny because what you just said was something that I was about to say. But because you're right. Here's the thing, right? Because ever since like this whole game of like Universal versus Disney's been going on, anything that happens, whether it's a new land or something breaks or whatever, people are always going back to Disney from whatever happens at Universal. Now, I get it, the competition and whatnot, but it's like, can we just focus, like you said, just focus on Universal? Oh, Universal did this? Okay, great. Or they didn't do this? Okay, that sucks. But we don't need to keep dragging Disney or other parks into the mix. Like, just focus on the one park. And then the other thing I'm thinking too is, again, for people out there, I'm not a coaster expert or anything at all, so just let you guys know. But I'm wondering, like, with the coasters, if is that a company that's cheaper to get parts from than other companies, which is why they're going to them in the first place. And then on top of that, how is their maintaining of maintenance going on throughout the year for these type of rides?
That's a great question, Ebba. That's a great question because yeah, how was the maintenance for the last 2.5 years on Universal's end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another weird thing with Intamin on Intamin's end is what I'm hearing is they're located in Europe. Well, they build a lot of coasters here in the States. Like, it's weird to me as a company, you don't have a warehouse out here in the US that you can ship these parts to these big theme park companies when something like this happens. Like, so is it, basically, are we going to see a 3-4 week downtime with this roller coaster every time they need a new part? I think that's ridiculous. And something doesn't really, I'm sorry, something isn't really tracking with that whole kind of narrative, in my opinion. I mean, has Incredicoaster had that problem? It's an Intamin coaster, but has that been down for like a month or 3-4 weeks?
I don't think there was any really roller coaster other than the Velocicoaster and that I had mentioned. I don't know. Do you know, is Rock and Roller Coaster?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But one way or the other. But Disney's kind of going through the same thing right now because now they're waiting on the new parts, I guess, for like the cars themselves for Rock and Roller Coaster, which is why they're done for another refurb.
Yeah.
And that's taking several weeks.
So these
So I
companies,
think it's really not the notion of the amount of downtime because of how long it would take. It might take 2 hours to install whatever they need to. What I think is probably taking the long downtime for these refurbs is waiting for the parts to come in.
oh yeah, no, that's probably the case, and that's what we're hearing. It's coming from Europe, so we have to wait now for this thing to get here from Europe. But it's just weird to me. Like, okay, as Intamin, as a coaster company, you build so many things in the United States. Like, wouldn't you have a facility here in the United States? So when like this ride in Florida has a problem, like you can get the parts to that company, that theme park sooner. And it's not like Intamin's a brand new company. I mean, they've been doing this for a long, long time. It's weird to me. It's really, really weird to me,
Now, if we can touch upon the other part that Michael had mentioned about like
Sure.
the amount of downtime that these rides are done, because we were talking kind of about this on Twitter and through like the DMs and everything, that when you take a very popular ride such as the Velocicoaster, one that in a way you can't really have that kind of ride go down because it's very popular, it's a people eater,
Right.
and then it cuts.
I do apologize. My phone is doing its own thing. Go ahead. Sorry about that, brother.
Sorry. That it's a people eater, and that it essentially they need that up and running, because you have the Velocicoaster, you have Hagrid's motorbike, you have even the older attractions. You have like the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, you have the Incredible Hulk, so you have those kind of rides, just like with Disney, with Flight of Passage, Expedition Everest, like that. So Rise of the Resistance, you take those rides down for a long period of time, and it's just like, okay, then people start to say, was it even worth us coming? Was it worth the ticket purchase? Because now we can't go on these kind of rides.
Well, it's a guest experience issue then, right? It's a guest experience. Go ahead, Eva.
Oh, sorry. So I was trying to say, so to George's point, absolutely, because I remember when when I was there for the Diz event in August of last year. What happened was, so Toy Story was closed. But around like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., Incredicoaster and Cars were both down. So you have two popular rides, and what happens? Everybody spreads out to everywhere else, and then that you watch the lines, the numbers, the time waits jump way up because now you have these huge attractions that are currently down. So now I'm curious, like, what's the wait times for Universal for that park? What's that going to look like with this coaster being down? And for what it sounds like, it's going to be like a month or two at least.
It's going to be a while. That's what I'm hearing. It's going to be probably like, yeah, I've been hearing like a month, but maybe it might be longer. Who knows? And this is just what we're hearing. Like, we don't really know. Like, I haven't heard anything in any official capacity as to like with Universal. I think Ashley Carter, she's a vlogger in the theme parks, a travel vlogger, right? Ashley Carter on Twitter. She reached out to Universal, and Universal just said, yeah, sorry, it's just technical difficulties and it's just not available right now. Check back later. You know what I'm saying? So we're hearing rumors on these forums that it's a part and they're shipping it, but we don't even know if that's even the case. It could be something else for all we know now, you know? So yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It'll be interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out. But I just know that if this was a Disney situation, it wouldn't be getting the kid glove treatment like it is, you know? So
Right, and that's like if something happens to Disney, like all these kind of issues Disney has been having the past, like, I don't know, few years now. For me, I'm not going to like be like, whoa, this other X company is doing this, or they're doing this better, or they're not doing that. So it's like, I get we want to like kind of have this competition of parks. I get it, right? But we don't have to always bring Disney into it. I mean, yeah, we can probably maybe compare, but not be like, oh, Disney, Universal is doing this or what have you. Just be like, okay, Universal, that went down. Now let us Universal fans know what's going on.
Right. It gets a little bit to the point of like whataboutism, right? It's like, oh, yeah. Universal's having a problem. Oh, but what about Disney? Well, they have this and that. It's like, it's a little whataboutism to me. And it's like, and this is the problem too. A lot of fans complain about Disney's hubris, right? They're too big for their britches, so to speak, right? And it's like, but you're fostering the same kind of hubris with Universal when you absolutely refuse to hold this company accountable. I get it, like you said, Eva, you're absolutely right. Like with the competition factor, you want to send the Mouse House a message, and we have options now, right? And that's great, but that doesn't mean just because Universal is like, the competition, that doesn't mean that like, well, they absolve themselves of ever getting criticized. You know what I'm saying? I don't see the same sort of what's the word for it? Like investigative kind of eye when it comes to, the Universal problems. Like if this was a Disney problem, oh, believe me, there'd be all kinds of stuff on Twitter about, oh, what's going on? This is crazy. What's going on with the mount? Why can't they get their stuff together? Why can't they get the part to them faster? And yada, 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 right? And with Universal, it's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's all good. Things happen. It's like, well, that's not okay, because you know what? You're fostering an environment where Universal can pretty much do whatever it wants, and the fans are going to smile and take it. And that's not a good position to be in. I mean, you want these companies to kind of fear the consumer to some degree, because it creates a better product for all of us. So it's good to call out Disney. It's good to call them out on their BS. It's also good to call out Universal on their BS and their problems, and it fosters a better situation for us fans in the long run. So before I move on to the next topic, George, any final topics? I mean, any final thoughts on the Velocicoaster being down?
Yeah, I just think Universal, honestly, just like with Disney, with Knott's Berry Farm, it's a well-oiled machine, and sometimes you get those cogs that come loose, and they have to tighten it up, do what they have to do. And sometimes, as you mentioned, OG, sometimes it's out of Universal's control. It's out of any of these companies' control, and they just, at least, I'm glad that they're taking the appropriate steps for the safety of the guest. I will say that.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to say, I think the fandom does have a statement. I'm going to play it for you right now in regards to Universal and Velocicoaster being down. They do have a statement. Here we go.
Just what the fuck did he do?
There we
go. Just what the fuck did he do?
That was great.
There we go. What did he do? What did he do?
Right?
No, but no, yeah. We'll keep our eye on this. It's an interesting story. It is. It's interesting, but it's not too surprising, I guess, coming from Intamin, because they have a history of problems. So
Right.
if I were a betting man, it's probably an Intamin problem over a Universal problem. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say. I mean, everybody, it's a ride's attraction. Stuff's gonna break. Stuff's gonna break down. It is what it is at this point. We just gotta let Universal. Hopefully, they're on a fast track to getting this thing back up and running for the guests.
Yeah, 100%, and hopefully they're not using those. Hopefully they didn't hire any raptors to do it, because they're little arms. That'd take a forever, man.
or T-Rex, the little tiny ones.
Little tiny arms, little tiny dino arms. So our next topic is this is a crazy story, you guys.
Sorry, really quick, it just popped in my head. I guess those kind of dinosaurs aren't the hopeless romantics.
Yeah, right, exactly. The hopeless romantic. Yeah, exactly, George. 100%. So this is from the Disney food vlog, right? And this is fascinating. I was really surprised when this story dropped a few days ago. We touched upon it a little bit in the live show, but I want to dig a little deeper with this one. It says here, expert predicts Disney World will announce a 5th park. Disney has a lot of lofty goals for the future, including plans to spend a whopping $60 billion to expand its parks and cruise line. In Walt Disney World, we're already seeing the addition to one new attraction, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which we will talk about later, an update for a classic attraction, the Country Bear Jamboree. Shout out to Big Al. And the retheming of an entire land, Dino Land USA, is going away, plus an expansion at Magic Kingdom. But one thing Disney World fans have been craving for a long time is a 5th park. Well, that could possibly come to Walt Disney World. So it says here, give me just a minute. It says here, so now experts are predicting that Disney might want to finally get around to building a 5th park in order to properly compete with Universal, especially Epic Universe in 2025. Here's the thing. I kind of stand by what I've said before. Look, you want to compete with Universal. I get that. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to announce something that's not necessarily right for you, Disney, at the moment, just to have the splashy headline. That's what worries me with this, is I feel like if this is really going to happen, if this is really the case, I feel like they're announcing it just to kind of get in the game and sort of like, see, we're responding. But it's not a good, in my opinion, it's not a good solution to the Epic Universe issue. Disney World is a much more mature resort. We already have 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, countless resorts. Adding a 5th park is really spreading yourself a little thin, especially when a lot of the existing parks need work. You're going to get a lot of cannibalization. I mean, I think even, and I've said it before, I think even Universal is going to see cannibalization with adding a 3rd one over there. There's just too much to do out there in Orlando at this point, So for me, I'm worried about that. If they build a 5th park, it's like, I don't think it's the right move. I think all you have to do really as Disney, do Disney, worry about Disney. Maybe do the things that you were announcing, the Blue Sky stuff, right? Daddy Josh got up there, said Beyond Big Thunder, Coco and Kanto, do that. Villains Land, do that. Do your Indiana Jones over there at Animal Kingdom and things like that. I think if you kind of, spread this investment out into the parks that you currently have, the sum of all the parts, basically these lands and these additions equal a new park collectively, basically, is what I'm trying to say, right? And that can compete with Epic Universe. You don't need to necessarily build a whole new park to do that. I just think it's a mistake. I really, really do. I stand by that. I think Disney needs to focus on the parks that it has right now, plus get those really, really, really going. And then maybe down the road, if the market kind of allows for it, then you can do a 5th park. But just because Universal is building a 3rd one doesn't mean we have to build a 5th one. What do you think, George?
I just got back from Walt Disney World this past week, and I spent a day at Animal Kingdom, and I paced myself. I took my time. I absolutely love that park. It's very aesthetically pleasing and what have you. It's a very different, unique kind of theme park that you can't find anywhere else. Um, but the truth of the matter is, it only took me about 4.5 hours to get through the whole entire park to do everything that I wanted to do. At the end of the day, it's not a full day park. And when you have a family of four or even a family of five and you're spending that much money and you're coming down to a theme park and you're only spending half day, but you're paying for a full day price, it's like, okay, I'm not really getting my money's worth. What are we doing here? And this is just with the four theme parks that are coexisting right now in Walt Disney World. If you add it on a fifth park without even touching Animal Kingdom, yeah, it's going to get definitely cannibalized to the notion of whatever is going to go into the fifth park. As you mentioned, OG, I feel like, maybe in 20, 25 years, after all these parks get a good amount of expansion upon their park, more things to do, a full day experience to actually get your bang for your buck for those tickets, then I could say, Disney World. I'll say this: it's never out of the question to say that Walt Disney World can never have a fifth gate.
No, you never want to take something completely off the table. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just right now.
Exactly.
It's Walt Disney World doesn't need it right now, nor for the purpose of why people are saying they need it. They do not need a fifth gate because of Epic Universe's grand opening within the next year. Now, I did mention on a past video that we just did with our good friend and friend of the channel, Alia. Definitely, if you didn't check out that video, please do so. It was a good conversation about Alia's Adventures by Disney trip. But I had mentioned to the fact that a lot of the Josh D'Amaro's blue sky what ifs, shoulda, coulda, woulda, is only proclaiming to Walt Disney World.
Right.
The Dino Land area got two different kinds of renderings. The first one was Utopia and Moana. Now it's Indiana Jones and Encanto. The Beyond Big Thunder, it was Coco, Encanto, and the Disney villains. Now we're probably going to get another whole rendering with different things. But to my point is, it's only about Walt Disney World. So
Right.
if we're getting blue sky, what ifs, the sky's the limit kind of ideas for Walt Disney World now, because of all the political issues going on with the state right now with Reedy Creek. They're kind of stalling time, they're waiting, so they're just kind of giving us this kind of pretense of a false hope, so to speak, like to say, we're still going to get stuff, we just don't know when, but they don't want to admit the fact of that. There's no
It seems
way.
like a stall tactic. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's no way, if they're doing that with individual attractions and lands, there is no way that Disney is ready for prime time to announce a fifth gate. I'm sorry, it's just not there.
Yeah, I don't see it either. What do you think, Abby? You think this is even like on the radar at all with this fifth park, or it kind of came out of nowhere? I'm like, this is kind of weird,
All right. So let me try to get my thoughts together real quick, because there's a bunch of different points I want to hit. But regarding like the fifth gate theme, I don't think, whether it's Blue Sky or not, they should not be announcing this, and I don't think they should even be doing it. So what I don't want to happen, right, is like even if they do, right, I don't want them to announce it like now, and then we wait like 10 years or whatever, and then until we finally get it, right. And then the other thing is that right now Disney, I don't think, is in a good financial situation to create another theme park, especially when they still have, like what George said, all these other parks in Walt Disney World that still need to be fluffed up. Like here in Disneyland, DCA needs a lot more stuff in it before. Yeah, I do want a third park, but I want that
Right.
park to be completed first to the quality of Disneyland.
Right.
So, and like George, like, so that park not being a full day park, give the people their money's worth of what they're paying you for. Don't make it like a half day experience. I mean, yeah, it's cool, but you're charging people and families all this money, and it's good money, and you shouldn't be gypping them on their experience. So yeah, that's just what I think about that. And then in terms of Universal's park, right? I mean, it's cool, right? We're gonna get a whole new Universal park and all that, But Disney, like what you said, OG, compete with yourself. I mean, yes, of course, you went like, oh, cool, like Universal is doing that. Maybe take some inspiration for later projects, but don't be like, okay, they did this, now we got to do this. And it's like, no, 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 do what Disney does, like you said, because that's what the fans have loved you for.
Right.
They've loved your movies. Disney, right? Like the really Disney magical things about it, the immersive, their parks. Do what makes Disney great, and the fans will follow.
And I do
100%.
and I do have to say, and a lot of people can have that argument of saying, well, when Universal announced the Wizarding World and it opened in 2010, and then they said, oh, well, Disney answered to that by announcing Pandora for Animal Kingdom. And they announced Cars Land for DCA, and then eventually 2 Galaxy's Edges for both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. That doesn't necessarily mean because they were answering to Wizarding World of Harry Potter. These were concepts, these were ideas, these were plans that were probably already in the pipeline that that WDI was working on with Blue Sky, and it just happened to be, them announcing it like right after the other. It's like that was Disney's lightning in a bottle, so to speak. But I don't necessarily think that was Disney answering to Universal. I don't think it had anything to do with that.
Right, and as a fan, right, when when Universal made Harry Potter, I was like, oh, that's awesome, something really cool for Universal. But when Disney, when we got Cars Land and whatnot, right, DC 2.0, I would never in my head as a fan was like, oh, they're responding to Universal. I was like, awesome, we're getting new cool stuff at the Disneyland Resort. This is exciting. I never went back to what other parks were doing because I didn't really care. I was like, okay, cool, they're doing that, but I care what Disneyland here is doing. And you guys are doing awesome with all this new stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the only land that I think Disney was sort of looking at Wizarding World and going, okay, we can duplicate that or replicate that success. I think Galaxy's Edge was like the one thing, right? Because it was very much like, okay, we can have this immersive kind of like IP land. We can do because Universal really did innovate with Wizarding World with the butterbeer, and like you're not just experiencing it, you're like the foods and everything were incorporated into it. I feel like Star Wars Land was a response, but the other stuff like Cars Land, no, that was it. Cars Land was announced in 2007. Pandora, I don't even think really Pandora was a direct response to Wizarding World. I agree with you, George. I really don't. But Disney needs to do what Disney does best. It's kind of like what Walt said. You can't beat pigs with pigs, right? Like when people were asking Walt Disney, "Are you going to do like a sequel to the Three Little Pigs?" He was like, "No, we can't beat pigs with pigs, right? You got to do something different." I think the same thing goes for like when it comes to the competition here. You don't want to like look at what Universal doing and go like, "Oh, okay, well they're doing that, so let's do that. Let's do the same thing. We'll do our version of that." Disney needs to do what Disney's good at, right? So stop looking at Universal and stop, and don't worry about them. Just outdo yourself, like Eva says, and I think you'll be fine. I really, really do. When Disney competes with itself, it does just fine. Look at California, in Anaheim, Disney does not have much competition at all. Let's be honest. Universal Hollywood is very little competition for the Disneyland Resort here in California. It's much more competition in Florida. But in California, Universal is very little competition. Disneyland Resort has been competing with itself basically for decades. And
it's basically what the Diz Twitter wants to make themselves believe. If you constantly keep on saying the same thing over and over again, subconsciously you end up tricking yourself into believing exactly what you're putting on social media. It's right. Like, oh, like Disney and Universal are going at it again. And, it's like they're retaliating. Disney's doing this because of Universal, and Universal's doing this because of Disney. And Disney's going broke, and the company is dwindling down to the sticks. And it's like, I mean, do you not realize like how much money is invested in the company? Like, well,
yeah, I mean, Disney's the only irrelevant company. I keep seeing on social media, Disney's irrelevant now. I mean, people have entire YouTube channels and based on talking about Disney. Clearly, there's an audience that's interested in what Disney is doing. Even with Universal, when Universal announced, when they had that big spread just a few days ago for Epic Universe, a lot of my timeline was not even about Universal and what they're offering. A lot of my timeline was, what's Disney's response going to be? I saw a lot of tweets like, oh, Disney, your move, Disney, your move. Even on Universal's biggest day, it was still about freaking Disney. You know what I'm saying? That says a lot. That says an absolute lot, you know? But yeah, I think that it's interesting to see. But yeah, I think that we will, I at least I hope that Disney just focuses on itself. You don't want to get in this kind of like this trap of like responding to Universal, because if Disney does that, I'll tell you right now, if Disney gets into that trap of basically kind of like, you know, following Universal's lead, they will drop to number 2. They have to lead and do what they do best. They cannot sit there and react to every little move Universal makes. I know the fans want that, but that's not what's good for the company. That is a wrong move on Disney's part if they were to do that. That's not how you stay number 1. I'm sorry.
If I could actually be so bold to say this, and I think Disney kind of shot themselves in the foot by, I'm going to try to be careful how I say this. After the events
be careful, George. We're getting paid by Bob Iger, remember.
Of course, yeah. I need him to still sign that check. That after the occurrences of 2020, Universal kind of was the lead, so to speak, when making park decisions, whether or not it was to keep the mask mandate, whether it was to, you know, different policies of what's going. And Disney kind of took the back seat on that. So Disney really wouldn't make a decision until Universal did first.
Well,
And
Universal,
I feel like Disney kind of did it to themselves. And moving forward, I think the fans got used to that, because Disney used to be the headliner. Disney used to be, you know, they do and everyone follows pursuit. But I think Disney was just kind of afraid at the time of not knowing which route to go. So they kind of let Universal kind of like, you know what, if they mess up and you know, and we follow through, let's see how it goes with them first. But I think that kind of hurt them in the sense.
Yeah, they were very careful Disney was very careful during the pandemic. Universal was a lot more, I don't know what the word you would say, a little more punk rock with it. Like Disney was way more strict with everything, you know, and Universal was a little bit more lackadaisical, you know, and it was a different vibe and energy from both companies. It really, really was.
Well, to George, your point, I actually still think Universal is still leading right now, because at least Universal, they're making decisions, whether you like them or not. They're making hard fact decisions. Disney's not, and it's very. As a Disney fan, it's very frustrating, because here's the thing: I'm not here to like bash Universal at all, right? I think Universal as a theme park is great, but Disney was that forefront company, right? They were the leaders, and now they're the followers.
Do you feel like it started in 2020?
Yeah, because because look, we still have reservations. You know, like why? Like every other theme park doesn't. Why does Disney still have this reservation crap going on? I don't understand it. And then again, we have all the blue sky stuff, and you know, I don't see Universal going, hey fans, you know, maybe George, you know, see this cool like dark universe, we could do that, that'd be cool, right? No, like they're not doing that. They're actually making stuff and doing things,
Right.
and Disney needs to be doing that. Stop responding to fan stuff. Stop responding to like Universal, like, oh my god, what are they doing? No, do what you do great, and people will follow and give you the money.
Exactly.
Sorry, OG,
No,
really
go ahead.
quick. I do want to say this because I did mention this to OG yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this to everybody out there. When it comes time for this D23 event, and they're going to put us all in this big arena, 25,000 fans. And if we decide that that tomorrow is going to give us another third round of just what ifs, shoulda, coulda, woulda, maybe if so, ands, buts, whatever you want to call it. We
you like big
cannot
butts, George? You a big butt guy?
I'm always a big butt. Always a big butt. we cannot give him the satisfaction of us as fans where we're clapping, we're cheering, because to him it's like, okay, we're accepting it. We're dealing with it. And then the second we get out of the arena, then we're all going to go on our phones and blow up social media. Oh, how could Disney do this? What is wrong with the market? Which is true. But
do it in the theater. Like, don't do it in a way that's like, well, the best way I could put it, like, show that you're not happy, but don't do it in a way that's like
distasteful or disrespectful.
Thank you.
Exactly. Yes.
Because we can't do another round of What If. I'm sorry, Josh, we just can't. You got it. Like, look, Universal, they don't, and this is the other thing too. I'm so sick of dollar amounts. I'm sick of like, oh, we're going to spend this much money in this many years. I've said it so many times. Without knowing what you're going to spend it on, that means nothing to me. If we're talking $10 billion, well, $10 billion can either go a long way or really barely anything at all, depending on what you're investing it in.
And when.
What?
And when.
And when, exactly. So if you're going to build, 6 new themed lands for like, $10 billion, well, but if you're only building one, well, that's another story now, so it matters what you're building. So that's why I hate the dollar amount stuff, because it doesn't really tell me anything. I don't know what you're building. I don't know what it is. So how can I know if the 2 billion's enough or not enough or whatever, So, and just announce a project like they used to do. Oh, we're going to do Galaxy's Edge. It's $1 billion, 14-acre expansion at Disneyland. Do that. But you don't announce money and timelines with no project, because that doesn't mean anything to fans. Fans don't get excited about that. It means nothing.
And also, I want to say too, yes, like this is on Daddy Josh, but this is also Iger. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, right? If I'm going to come out and say, and like I was blaming Josh or Chapek for all this stuff that was happening, right, in terms of the parks when he was CEO, I should also now be putting that on Iger as well. Because Josh, he's running the parks, but Iger's still his boss. So it's both of them. Like, hey, Daddy Josh, yes, like what are you doing? But hey, Iger, what are you doing?
Well, you bring up a great point, Eva, because it's like Josh could have a terrible management style or a leader. He lacks leadership, right? So it's up to Bob Iger as a CEO to step in and start making demands for Josh. Hey, look, dude, you know what? You're not approving any projects. You're not giving me anything. I need you to start approving stuff, Josh. You're right, Eva. Like, he needs to start, putting the fire under him a little bit and start telling him, like, dude, like, you got to like start announcing stuff. We need like shovels in dirt. Like, we're going to start building stuff and like doing things. None of this what if maybe nonsense anymore. And it's like so weird that they started to do that, right? Like, it doesn't energize or excite the fans, because you're not announcing it. So fans in the back of their mind go, well, this might be something that we might not ever get. So why am I getting excited? But it sounds cool, but it might not happen. So like it's like a non-announcement announcement. It means nothing. I really, honestly, dude, I wish Iger would tell Daddy Josh, you know what? We're going to pay you in like, well, here, okay, your salary, Daddy Josh, we could pay you this. We might pay you that. We'll see that. We'll bring you along on the journey with us. We'll talk it out. We'll talk it out, along the way, Would Josh be okay with that? Probably not.
That would be very interesting. Just put a whole freeze frame on their bank accounts and let's see how fast they move now.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, OG, I remember you were talking about this on the show earlier that you guys just dropped. It's like, we don't want to see like this maybe stuff for big things, right? We want to see announcements for the huge stuff, and then maybe probably like with like the maybes and what ifs for like the smaller projects, right? That's cool, but for the big stuff like lands or huge attractions, make those official announcements.
Right. Yeah, I don't mind if they give us like maybe like a big project in Anaheim and a big project at Walt Disney World, and then you want to sprinkle in some maybe stuff. Okay, that's cool. We got some big announcements. We're hyped for it. We have timelines. We know what's going on. Cool. Then you can sprinkle in some, hey, we're also thinking about this. That's fine. You're right, Evan. That's totally cool. But when you don't give us any, like when everything is a maybe and a what if, And it's like, and then the stuff that is concrete or like official is like the San Francisco like retheme, that kind of stuff.
Or we're updating the toilets in the Adventureland bathrooms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. George updates those on the regular. You know, and look, I have no issue with just for the record, no issue with the San Francisco retheme. I think it's a pretty good retheme.
I like it too.
Yeah, it was a modest retheme, but it made sense. You know what I'm saying? Right. But like my overall point though is like it was a small retheme. You know, you got to announce big stuff, Josh. You got to announce a new land, a new e-ticket. We got this Avengers thing that's been on the back burner for God knows how long.
Yeah. I just honestly think like by the time we even get that thing, the hype train for that thing is already depleted. Like I don't even think people even really care anymore. I'd like to really know how many people even really think about it or talk about it. You know, because it's like it just fell to the wayside.
Well, the MCU is kind of limping along right now. You know, I mean, it might resurge a little bit with Deadpool 3. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the new logo. It looks pretty dope. I will admit, it looks pretty cool with the Wolverine, and it looks dope. But like, you know, that might give the MCU a shot in the arm. But like overall, though, the MCU is on the struggle bus right now in a big way. You know, so it doesn't have the cachet that it once had. Yeah, that's why I think we're hearing a little bit more about Avatar for Disneyland right now.
But I mean, look, I mean, we have Galaxy's Edge. That's the sequel trilogy. A lot of fans don't like the sequel trilogy, even though they did make money. But everybody loves Rise.
That's true.
You can have a really awesome Avengers e-ticket ride, and yeah, it might be on the decline a little bit. But if the ride is awesome, nobody's going to care. So just
and I did hear. This is like just rumors, that actor Josh Brolin, that he was saying that they were in talks of possibly bringing Thanos back in the MCU. So, I mean, if they decide to do that, then that gives that character more relevance to then have in the ride. But now, let me ask you both this. During the time of this recording, the first quarterly earnings for 2024 will be tomorrow. Which we'll dive into with our own separate video with our own Mr. Seymour Duck. But
and that dude don't miss, man. He was going after Elon Musk today, dude. I was dying, bro. I was dying.
But just for the sake of it, because it's the eve of the quarterly earnings call, what is do you fellas have any predictions of like what could possibly be mentioned or not mentioned for tomorrow?
It's interesting, George. You bring up a great point. I mean, I think that today they announced. Today they actually announced a sports bundle. I don't know if it was just a couple hours ago, where it's Disney, Warner Brothers, and what was the third
Discovery?
company?
Is it Discovery?
No,
that's part of Warner.
That's part of Warner. It's
it was Fox, ESPN Plus.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Warner. There you go. Fox, ESPN, and more. So it was these three companies, and they're basically going in on this sports streaming thing, right? Dude, great. I think that's a great idea. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of funny though, because they actually had something similar with Hulu, and they got rid of the joint venture with Hulu, and now they jumped right into it now with basically the sports version of Hulu, which is interesting. But I think it's a smart idea, and I think for sports fans, I think it would be pretty successful. So I think that's a big announcement. But now, going into tomorrow, I think he still needs a big announcement, though, Iger. Because you have all these sharks circling the waters right now. You got Nelson Peltz. You got this Blackwell group that's talking about how they want to split the company up into 3 different parts. You know what? Fuck those guys. Look, dude, I'm an open-minded guy. You know what I'm saying? I said, even with Trion Group, if you have good ideas, you bring them to the table, I'm all ears, Blackwell, I was like, okay, I don't know much about them, but I'm open to it. When they said that, I was like, no.
They need to be flushed down a well.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what? That really turned me off to that whole thing. Value Act is fantastic. I still support Value Act because they actually did some really great stuff with Nintendo. And we all know how great Nintendo's been doing lately. But you have all these sharks in the water right now. You got Peltz, you got Blackwell, all these sharks. Iger, you have to go in there and you have to do something big and bold. You have to provide some kind of confidence to the investment community, to the fan community, to Hollywood and all that jazz. You have to give them something, dude. If he gets in there and it's the same old maybe what if, coulda, shoulda, woulda stuff, I mean, the Avatar thing would be a perfect thing for him to kind of give us more detail on. Why don't you just go ahead, Iger, and just say, look, we're building a brand new 13-acre land at Disneyland Resort, whatever, based on Pandora, based on the second movie, whatever you want to say. Just give the parks a little red meat. I think Wall Street would like it, but he's got to do something like that tomorrow. It's very volatile right now. You know what I'm saying?
If you didn't have how many of these different kind of investors circling the waters around the Walt Disney Company, then he could probably say, you know what? But I mean, the company's been like all over the place right now. So it's like, now's the time you need to say and do something.
You got to do something. And I know streaming is a big deal with Wall Street. You know, they're kind of addressing that. They did today with the announcement. They might even do more of that tomorrow. Good. But they have to do more. He has to really hit a home run tomorrow. If he doesn't, I'm worried, honestly.
Well, also to the app, is it called the Apple Vision Pro that just came out?
Yeah.
So didn't Apple and Disney have like that partnership or whatever, because they're gonna have all those streaming streaming shows on it that could be really like cool, but it's like $3,500.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think here's the thing. So from Pandora, I really think Iger should announce something on that, because it's been a year already. We haven't heard anything besides, oh, it's coming. And then we get this things like, oh, it's going into DCA, but then psych, it's not. So like, I want a confirmation. We're getting a Pandora of some kind, and where's it going, right? You don't have to say numbers. I don't care about how much you're spending. I just want to know what it like. That confirmation, and then which park it's going into, right? And then as fans, we can speculate where it's going, but just tell us where it's going. And then also, I want to hear about the Avengers e-ticket, because we haven't heard about that for about a year as well, or over a year. So I think that'd be really cool. And then maybe another like type of expansion for DCA,
right?
At least in terms for like Disneyland side, Walt Disney World, George. I hope you guys get some big actual concrete announcements, and that's just what I want, some concrete announcements in this thing.
And I think for Disney World, I think Beyond Big Thunder is still well in development, even to Disney. I don't think they're fully fleshed out, but I think honestly that they have enough that they could give us even at least green lighting of what is actually going to go into Dino Land. Because even as of right now, when they announced Indiana Jones and Encanto, that still wasn't fully depicted of that's what's going to go there.
Right. Yeah. And I would appreciate some candor too, right? Because it's like, this is the thing too. I think the issue with Disney right now, and look, I think Disney, their PR game right now is their number one problem. I completely agree with Jay Shearer on that.
I agree.
The financials, they're going to get through that. They're going to figure the money out. It's going to be fine with that. They're going to lower the budgets. They're going to do what they got to do. The money will be fine. It's the PR, dude. The PR right now is in the toilet. It really is. You know, that's what they got to get. That's what they really have to get. They got to get on their A game with that, because and all this stuff, like the announcements and all that comes down to PR. But I really want them to have a little candor in this earnings call and say, look, you know what? We have a plan for Florida. We got this big Beyond Big Thunder thing. This is what we want to do Beyond Big Thunder. Now, this is the concept. We're going to give you this, and the other. But we're gonna have to wait a couple years to break ground, because there is political uncertainty right now in the area with the legal back and forth with Ron DeSantis.
I would appreciate that more.
Exactly. Just be honest, dude. Just be honest and just say that's what it is. And all this bullshit Daddy Josh stuff, well, maybe coulda, shoulda, woulda, and he's kicking the can down the road. Just say what it is, dude. Just say that it's the political landscape. Give us a couple years. DeSantis gets termed out, I think, in a year and a half or 2 years, I believe it's something like that. So just say when he leaves, dude, it's party time, okay? whatever you gotta say, Iger. Whatever you gotta say, but just be honest, you know. And I think that's what the investment community is craving right now, is honesty and candor. And I think that also they just want to see some concrete stuff. It's way too much. Everything is way too much up in the air right now.
Well, what that's the thing, right? Is like that, if you're an investor, right, and you're investing all this money to Disney, and then they're like, well, this is coming, but we don't know when. Or they're like, well, we probably could do this, and they're like, okay, well, what am I investing in for? Like, why am I doing this, right?
Right.
So I think at this time for investors, like, these are some brave people, man. Like, because they're really gambling their money, I think, on what Disney's going to do or not do. So, but the whole PR thing, dude, I think Iger is going to probably get
Yeah,
messed that up.
Disney needs to look at doing a whole complete reset on the people that are part of the PR teams. They really have to. I hate saying that because that then jeopardizes someone's job. But
Right.
again, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have the chops, and especially when you have to be, it's not just being part of a PR team, but because you have to be part of a PR team for a company like Disney, it's a whole different kind of ball game than being part of a PR team for something like Amazon. You know, it's a
Yeah.
completely different beast.
Or Farmers Insurance or some bullshit,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, they have to get on their PR game. You know, look, and this is the thing, you know, it's like the old PR lady, I always massacre her name. I think it's Xenia. I think it's what her name was. She obviously did a really good job because we never had any PR problems when she was there. Now she retired when Chapek came in, you know, and she never came back. Now we got Christina Shockey, which is a former like Hillary Clinton PR person. Look, dude. I mean, I'm a former Bernie bro. I was never a Hillary guy myself, but I mean, you know, PR wasn't exactly the Clinton campaign strong suit. You know what I'm saying? Let's just say that.
Well, so here's
yeah.
my question, OG. Sorry to interrupt, but here's my question. Since it's a different PR person, do you think all the PR mess ups that Iger has had, do you think that's probably because that's what he's actually feeling when he's talking about that
No,
stuff?
I think it's the new PR woman.
You do?
I do, because it seems like when Iger was in there the first time, he knew what he was doing. Like it was the chops, and I think honestly, it
She's
really had nothing to
advising
do with
him.
Yeah, I think honestly, the Xenia woman, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, I think honestly she was putting Iger at the top of his game, where it was like, you know, say it like this, put it like this, we should do this, do that. I think honestly, it's kind of showing how much Iger really doesn't do on his own because of the new PR team.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's getting older, you know, he burn out, and that's part of it too, I think. But like, yeah, they need it. The PR thing is the biggest issue right now at Disney. That they're losing the social media game. Look, Universal is running circles around them in PR. That's freaking circles. That Universal video they did, the one we reacted to, George, the other day, the Epic Universe one. You know, we were teasing a little bit here and there with that stuff, right? You know, with the glasses, the whole thing. But for the most part, though, all kidding aside, dude, that was a great video. That was a really good public relations video for Epic Universe.
If Disney
really
was to do something like that, and they said, you know what, here's our roster of things that are in the pipeline that we are now greenlighting,
Right.
and they show us concept art, and they say, you know, this is what it's going to end up looking like, and it's like, here's the Avengers e-ticket, here's the Avatar experience, here's the Beyond Big Thunder, here's the new South America section that's replacing Dino Land. They give us that whole roster, but they do it in the Disney fashion. Do it the Disney way. Don't copy Universal. Do it the Disney way.
Right.
Then
we're good.
We're good.
Well, let's see. And to that point, George, is that, you know, if Disney is constantly responding to Universal and they're responding back, I kind of have this fear. It probably wouldn't happen, but I kind of have this fear where, like, then eventually they will start to kind of just copy each other, and then you wouldn't have that Universal feeling in the Universal parks and that Disney feeling in the Disney parks, because fans go to Universal because they want to experience Universal. Fans go to Disney because they want to experience Disney. If you start to kind of copycat each other, it's going to feel very samey.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's the samey problem is definitely a problem. I agree with you, but and that's actually one of the issues I've actually had with animation. You know, I mean, look, John Lasseter, creative genius. He really was a smart dude creatively. But one of the issues I had with John Lasseter was the two studios became very samey. He turned both studios into Pixar, basically. And, you know, Disney animation is not Pixar, dude. But he didn't really get that. I mean, we had some gems in there. We had Tangled, we had Frozen. But a lot of stuff, like I think Wreck-It Ralph was not a Disney movie. That should have been a Pixar thing. That was way too modern for Disney animation, in my opinion.
I agree.
Right? That was a Pixar movie, and it was like, and even Zootopia. As much as I
was
like
just going to
Zootopia.
say it. I was going to say Zootopia seemed more Pixar filled to me.
It did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, totally. And Brave was more Disney. So it was this weird, this weirdness going on over there. You know what I'm saying? The too much, like you said, great word, samey. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to do that. You want to have distinct brands. You know?
Exactly. Yep.
So yeah, 100%. And actually, that's honestly, dude. We were at I was at Disneyland. I think it was like a week ago with my buddy Sean and Ryan, and we went to Web Slingers. And I'm sitting there going like, this ride feels like Universal, dude. I don't know what it is about Web Slingers, man. It just feels like Universal. I'm like, I don't know, man. You know, I just kind of want to get. And sorry, Jay. Jay Shearer loves that ride.
Yeah.
I'm not like a huge fan, but like, I feel like Disney needs to kind of get back into the Disney thing a little bit. And you can do superheroes in a Disney way, though. You know what I'm saying? It's not impossible. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to be copying Universal. And Universal doesn't want to be copying Disney. You want to have your own distinctive look and feel and vibe.
Well,
So-
exactly, and I think that's where for the domestic parks specifically is that's where Disney needs to allow the Imagineers to really be creative, give them the budgets that they need to create these awesome stuff that we're seeing in the foreign parks. Because we're not getting any of that stuff. All that stuff looks freaking awesome, like the Zootopia, you know, all that, everything. And domestically, it's like, burr, burr. And I'm like, come on, guys.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, we need some. And look, I'll forgive them for certain things, like I said, like San Francisco.
Yeah.
You were taking an existing area. You were kind of putting some IP, infusing some IP into there. It works because it was a very Bay Area location in the first place. San Francisco is a hybrid of the Bay Area and Japan. Cool. You can do that seamlessly. I think it worked very well. Even the Pixar Place Hotel. I know a lot of people are kind of crapping on that, but look, you know what? It was a modest retheme. I think it is a temporary solution. I think that hotel is probably not going to be here in 20 years, but you know, you had to do something with it. It overlooks Pixar Pier. It couldn't be Paradise Pier Hotel forever. So, you know, given the modest retheme, I think they did a really good job. You know what I'm saying? But now we need to start seeing some heavy investments, some big investments. Bring out the big dogs now. Give us that Pandora. Give us that Zootopia. Give us that Arendelle. You know what I'm saying?
I think it would have been, if Disney really wanted to be creative with that hotel, if they would have kind of teased us of what could have been going within that section once they expand out for DCA, once Disneyland Forward gets greenlit. Because what you essentially end up doing is you then use the land around that hotel that's going to become the expansion of DCA, whatever those lands may be. Maybe Zootopia, it may be Frozen, maybe Tangled, what have you, where then you now have a Pixar themed hotel that is now sitting where Frozen, Tangled, Zootopia is.
Right.
So I thought it would have been kind of creative if they would have themed the hotel around to what they could possibly be putting there.
Right.
So it kind of gives us a little teaser.
No, I agree with you. But I think the reason why they didn't is because I really believe that hotel is on its way out.
So you you think the whole thing's just gonna be?
I think this was basically like, in the meantime, this will drive more occupancy because now we have an IP attached to it. But I think 10, 15 years, that thing will be freaking gone.
Do you think they'll put another hotel in there, or do you think it's just going to be all theme park and then they could put another hotel in another location?
I think they'll add another hotel because they're not going to want to lose that occupancy. But I don't know if it'll be there again.
It'll be somewhere else, like on property.
Right. Some other Disney hotel on property to make up for the lost rooms, you know, absolutely. But I think this hotel is absolutely a temporary fix for right now. I don't think they're planning on keeping that thing, you know. I really don't. But
honestly, basically what they could end up doing if they wanted to even be creative of getting rid of that hotel is do it at nighttime and put on Toy Story 3 the scene where they're all going into the fire. So as it's like the countdown, and then all of a sudden you just hit the plunger.
just implode
There
it.
you go.
Yes.
Like you guys ever watch like those Vegas implosions, like when they like when they implode those hotels in Vegas?
No.
Oh, dude, go on YouTube, man. They like what was it, like the Sands Hotel, I think it was, and stuff like that. Like they're in Vegas, they do it a lot, but they like implode these hotels, bro. Like that's how they get rid of them.
Interesting.
And it's like this weird, they explode, but like from the inside out. Like it's weird. It kind of falls in on itself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's kind of dope.
That's
but they
cool.
could do that. They could make a big, like George was saying, they can make a big spectacle of it. Like they can projection map
Projection map.
the Toy Story scene on the building. Make a whole big show. But yeah, no, I think that hotel is look, obviously they just redid it, so it's not going to go away to next year or anything.
Right.
But like I think within a decade, 15 years, I think it'll be gone.
I mean, it is a good piece of real estate to flatten out and expand, for future theme park development.
Well, and it's harder to find theme park space than hotel space. Yeah. Because Disney can buy another hotel on Harbor or something and bulldoze that hotel and build a Disney hotel there.
Yeah.
It's easier to find maybe 5-10 acres to do a hotel than it is to find 15, 20, 30 acres for a theme park expansion, So it's much more valuable to use this land for theme park. And that's why I'm very much against using the Toy Story lot for a Disney Springs West. It makes no sense. You have 75 acres in that Toy Story lot. Why are you going to waste 75 acres in the middle of Anaheim on retail and dining? That makes no sense. It makes zero sense to me. You're never going to find 75 acres collectively in that one spot again, and you're going to waste it on another mall.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, OG, because I actually talked about this with Michael over the phone the other night.
Oh yeah.
And now, not talking about right now, but years down the road, eventually, could we possibly see Disney eventually buying up Garden Walk and the Angel Stadium for future resort development?
I think it would be a really smart idea if they did. I'm actually really surprised how many times they passed up buying Garden Walk. Supposedly, they've had the opportunity to do it a few times, and they passed up on it. Why? I have no idea. It's
That's
like
weird.
I know. I mean, they've had the opportunity a couple times now, from what I've heard, to get that shopping center, and they passed on it. And that shopping center, it's always dead. Like it's never busy.
Yeah.
So here's saying you throw a Disney in there. Now you got guests coming all over.
Yeah, exactly. And you can bulldoze it, put whatever. I mean, you can do so much. Like Disney can utilize that like crazy. I don't know why they haven't. Angel Stadium is a big plot of land too. You can put a lot over there.
And you know what? It's actually funny is they're going to hold a D23 event at the beginning of August, right before the D23 event, and it's actually going to be held at Angel Stadium.
Right. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
We'll see. And speaking of Angel Stadium, I mean, not Angel Stadium, but speaking of D23, we're planning, and we'll give them more details as it gets closer, but we are planning an OG55 meetup around the D23 Expo. It's gonna be lit, y'all. Yeah. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But we'll give days and everything, and we're planning on doing it at Downtown Disney because we know the reservation system. Not everyone can get a reservation, and with the different passes. So we're gonna try to do it like in the Downtown Disney district where everyone has access to like meet up. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a long ways away, so we'll announce it or give details a little closer. But I think be a good time to meet everybody. But yeah, it's crazy, but we'll see. Disneyland Forward, we're going to get some official word on that in a few months. I think that with us in Anaheim, I think they're kind of waiting on that. I think Disney doesn't want to show their cards right away. Mm-hmm. They want to kind of play it conservative right now while the city, they haven't got it approved yet. You know what I'm saying? Look, in the 90s, the city raked, dude. They raked Disney over the coals when it came to these Westcott plans. Oh, the big ball. We can't do that. We can't do this. We can't do that. I think Disney wants to avoid a problem like that with the city right now. So what they're doing is they're keeping their plans kind of secret, vote on it, get it approved, and then they'll come out there with this is what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? Because if they come out there with this is what we want to do now, then the city's going to go like, oh, dude, you want to build a freaking Zootopia? Well, how tall is that going to be, guys? You know, and this, that, and the other, you know? So it's like, I think they want to avoid that. So no drama. We're just going to get this thing approved, sign off on it, then we'll say what we're going to do there. So I think that's the holdup for that. So, hey, and that is coming, I think, you know, towards spring, early summer. And then that cuts right perfectly into the expo in August.
Yeah,
for some good announcements.
And I just wanted to say to OG and George and everybody at home as well is that while it's very frustrating that we're not getting like these like huge official announcements, I will say I am very happy with what we've like beginning at the Disneyland side of things of or like the whole resort, right? We got the Toontown revamp that happened. It's freaking awesome. You know, we got the new tree house. I went there with George and OG and Mindy on that Monday when we went. It would look great at nighttime. It's so beautiful. Oh man, I love it, dude. It's and like this tree stump is out of the walkway, so you have all that walking space now. They did a really good job of that. And then also too, now we're getting that whole new Haunted Mansion queue and like the store. So you know, I love that we're getting all these little like bits of updates that's going on in the park. But now I think it's really time to kick in a high gear and get like these big announcements going.
Yeah, we got to get some biggies in there. Absolutely. Now, we do know one thing for sure, and this segues into our last topic of the day. We know we're getting Tianas. That's a for sure. So it says here, this was actually announced the other day, and this is interesting, right? So Tiana's Bayou Adventure has a height requirement, which is no shock. I mean, it's you got the big drop, the whole thing. So it says here that although no height restriction has been announced for the Princess and the Frog attraction, since the ride is simply a retheme of Splash Mountain, we can only assume that the same height requirement will carry over. So if that's the case, then you can expect Tiana's Bayou Adventure to require guests to be at least 40 inches or taller to ride. So yeah, it wasn't officially announced, but it's kind of like the working kind of assumption because of that was the height requirement for Splash Mountain, right? Now, there's been a lot of talk. I've seen a lot of talk in the fan community. It's a fair argument to make. Look, this is when you retheme it to a princess attraction, right? You're attracting more kids, right? It's like younger, like maybe young girls or whatever. So is that an issue where when you're attracting younger kids to Tiana's and now you have a 40-inch height requirement, is that a problem?
I think it could be. I think honestly, because one can argue and say, well, it's the same ride, it's the same height restrictions. How come it wasn't a problem with Splash Mountain? Well, as you just mentioned, OG, the younger generation today don't know really the story behind Splash Mountain and Song of the South and too much of those characters. Whereas with Princess and the Frog, with Tiana, Naveen, Lewis, Mama Odie, these kids know these characters. So when you're taking a IP film that's geared towards, as you even mentioned, not even just to young kids, but to young girls.
Right.
And it's based off of now a ride that requires a certain height restriction. Yeah, that could cause some issues. It
could. Here's the thing that I'm kind of mixed on it. Hold on, let me bring Ebba back. we got the Ebster. Here he is. Okay, so I'm kind of mixed on it, and I'll tell you why. We've seen, for example, like Universal, right? To much success, take kind of a kids franchise. Like I think the Harry Potter franchise, I would say, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but for me personally, I feel like Harry Potter is sort of the same demo as maybe the princesses. It's a younger franchise, it's for kids. The young kids read those books and what have you. Now, the height requirement for the Forbidden Journey is 48 inches.
48?
48. And the one for Splash Mountain, it's 40 for Tiana. So it's like, I get it because I see that argument. And it's a fair argument to be had, right? Like, okay, these are for little girls and you got a 40-inch height requirement. But the Potter ride is for little kids too, in a way. It's the same kind of like that young demo, and it's 48.
But isn't that Universal's issue where there's like too much, where you can't have a whole lot of rides for young kids?
Well, that's a great point.
Or
yeah,
or sorry, OG, or you can't have a lot of rides for people like me and OG who are scared of all the big stuff.
exactly, dude. Exactly. I'm well over 48 inches, but there's a lot of shit I'm not going to go on. You know what I'm saying?
Where it's like when they rethemed the Tower of Terror to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, that franchise kind of fits well with the type of ride system. When you have a demographic of young children, primarily young girls, is that now where they like to dress up as their favorite princess. They see the princess in the parade. They do the meet and greet. So now they see a ride that's like, oh, look, like this ride is based off of the Princess and the Frog or Princess Tiana. Oh, but sorry, sweetie, you can't go on it because
Right.
it's you're 5 inches too short. You know,
Right.
it's like you don't really necessarily have to have that conversation with the young kids when it came time to Splash Mountain. But for something like this, it's because you're tying a kid generated IP to a thrill type of ride.
You know, I'm actually checking because I'm actually very curious what the so for the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train
Okay.
at Walt Disney World, you're looking at 38. So it's a little less than Tiana's one, but that's a princess too. But it's a different angle though. It's not Snow White necessarily. It's the dwarfs.
Right.
That might change the equation, the math on it.
And those 2 inches, they decide to put that because that proclaims as a family coaster in Fantasyland.
Right.
See, when you already have a ride that was based off of in Frontierland really wasn't geared towards
Like
the
kids
younger
like that.
kids. Yeah.
Right.
What
do you think
What's really quick? I'm sorry. What's the height requirement for Big Thunder?
for Big Thunder? Let me check.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I got you, brother. I got you. Big Thunder. Thunder from down under. Let's see. How tall do you have to be? 35 inches.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
even a little less than Mine Train. That's surprising, actually. Well, I don't know. Mine Train was kind of a banger, bro. Like that. I tell you, dude. We got Ebba. Have you been on that? You haven't been on that. The Mine Train.
No, because I haven't even been at those parks.
You haven't been to
So-
Walt Disney World yet.
No.
Okay, I'm telling you, Mine Train is really fun, dude. It's really fun. And it's like perfect for us because you and I, we're not like thrill junkies.
Yeah.
It's enough thrill that you're like, damn, this is cool. But it's not like where you're like uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly, and like that's where I get like the rides at Six Flags, whatever. It's like I describe it as it's too much thrill for me. Like
Yeah.
there's a point where I have like a threshold, and it's like it's fun, and then it's not. And I'm like, okay, I'm very uncomfortable now. I don't like this.
So you like Big Thunder, right?
No, yeah, I love Big Thunder, Space. I even really like Incredicoaster, Guardians, but you're not gonna take me to Six Flags and Magic Mountain and take me on like X2 or Scream or Riddler's Revenge. No way, dude. I'm not doing that at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Evan and I will be at the gift shop waiting for you, George. Absolutely, absolutely. No, but if you like Big Thunder, you like Mine Train. I would actually think it's like, dang, dude, I might even, I don't know, at least Disneyland's version of Big Thunder. I might even put Mine Train over it. I mean, I had a
Really?
blast with that ride. It was
Wow.
so fun, and it like kind of like you like it doesn't really like waste any time. Like you get in and it's like,
You
boom.
go. You
Nice.
go.
You're-
There's no foreplaying around.
No, exactly. There's no dinner in a movie. Emma. Okay,
Just get in and go, right?
keep going, bro.
And
You're going.
and I think OG, you said Slinky Dog is like right at his
Yeah,
threshold. Like,
that was
really?
weird. Ebba, that was a weird one, bro. Because that one was like, oh, a Slinky Dog, oh, baby shit, right? Like
yeah,
this is
it's,
easy.
it's weird because like when I watch the videos, right, it doesn't look very fast. But like, how fast is it like when you're actually on it?
It's a little more intense than it looks. I don't
Okay.
know the speed exactly, but it was like I was like right there. Like it was cool. I could do it again, but it was like it's like right there, dude.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's like right there. But if you can handle Incredicoaster, you'll be fine, dude.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
it's I don't think it comes close to Incredicoaster. Do you, George? It's like
no, No. If you can handle Incredicoaster, you could definitely handle
Yeah,
Slinky Dog.
you'll be fine. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
it's just more than you think it would be. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh, I see. Okay.
from a ride like
Yeah.
Slinky Dog, it's way more than you think it would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
it's a
So,
good coaster though.
and then, so Michael, what is your take on it? Do you think that Disney really wasn't thinking too much when it came time to like the height requirement, like for because it's going to be based off of something of Princess and the Frog for young children, for young girls? Like, what's your take on it?
This is gonna be a hot take, guys. So I think they did not think about that at all. Here's why: because I feel when they announced this this ride, it was a knee-jerk reaction to what was going on, at the time, and none of that was thought through. I believe what was going on, they're like, oh, gotta throw something up, and then there was no thought about height requirement, about the story of the princesses, how can that fit in with like the kids and whatnot. Here's the thing: if you did Princess and the Frog as like the movie, right? You wrote through the movie. I think that would have been great. That's like perfect concept right there. But one, they're not. So already I'm like kind of really skeptical about the ride. Two, I think that any type of fairy tale princess ride should be put in Fantasyland, and that's why again I will say I don't like Ariel's in DCA at where it's at because that's a fairy tale princess movie, and that should be in Fantasyland.
Yep, I have my own personal thoughts on that. I know it's probably uh, not of the of the I'm in the minority there, but yeah, I agree. I feel like there should be the Little Mermaid ride,
Right.
but where its location is,
Hmm.
it just doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah, and
Mm.
yeah, and like with Splash Mountain 2, Tiana, I think that should be like, the classic or like a new updated version of a dark ride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mermaid. It's a out here in California. Mermaid is one of those attractions. Like it's a property that is near and dear to my heart. Like I love Mermaid because of Howard Ashman, and I love what it did for the company. Uh,
I don't
but
even like how they even changed the entranceway for it. Like now that they added Genie Plus to that ride, which doesn't make any sense to me.
No, at all.
yeah, why did they do that?
I
Like,
just
like
to add even more. Like if anything, it backed up the line more. It was a constant flow that people were just walking in,
Hmm.
and now you have to walk all the way down by where Golden Zephyr is.
Yeah.
That's the new entrance for Little Mermaid.
yeah,
It
I don't
doesn't need
know.
it.
Yeah, it doesn't need. Yeah,
As I said, I do enjoy the attraction. I do think it does need to be in the Disneyland Resort. I personally think it should be over at Disneyland, not
Oh,
DCA. But,
agreed.
that's to the argument of saying, well, DCA doesn't have as much as it is, so you're taking
Yeah.
more out of there. But I still think, just like what you mentioned before, OG, it's just like them putting in Avatar in DCA just for the sake of saying, yeah, let's put something else here for DCA. It has
right.
to fit. And I do think The Little Mermaid at some point did fit with the DCA 2.0 before it became the Pixar Pier. But now I just feel like you could turn that into a cool, awesome dark ride for Coco.
Okay, so I have a question about that, George, right? So this is going to kind of get a little maybe debate here, but
Here
it's
we
kind of
go.
like where I was checking the DMs, right? Is
Right.
you could take out Ariel's, put it in Disneyland. I would want that. But does Golden Zephyr, does Mickey Symphony Swings, does Goofy Sky School, is any of that Pixar Pier related? Like you could demolish all of those. I would have no care in the world and put something like a Coco or an Encanto, something in there that makes more sense, and that's, I don't know, because that's more Disney. Because like these rides, they're fun. I go on them, but in my opinion, they're just kind of run of the mill rides you can get at any other park.
Yeah, I could see that. The only one really that I would kind of miss is the Silly Symphony swings because I just love the swings. Um,
Yeah,
if
my
they
wife
could,
too.
if they could kind of retheme it, maybe if they were to do that like a run, maybe like Up, because you're already in the swings, so it kind of like the swings could kind
Mm,
of look like the Wilderness Explorer backpack, and
yeah.
the whole ride system could be the house itself, or and then you kind of go up with the balloons And it kind of like, they could do something like that if they wanted to keep the same type of ride system. But at the end of the day, I do see your point. They're just those typical kind of carnival, amusement park, seaside, pier rides,
Right.
Yeah.
And that seems like that. I'm not saying that they're bad rides. I'm just saying they're just
Yeah.
the ride types and systems you can get at other these other little parks. You know what I mean? So I want to really see that nice Disney invention there in the park.
Yeah. Honestly, I would move the Little Mermaid over to somewhere in Disneyland for Fantasyland. That whole strip right there. And then, even to where Paradise Gardens is. Golden Zephyr, Silly Symphony Swings, Goofy Sky School. Turn that into a whole nother area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
It doesn't even need to be connected to the pier. It doesn't even have to be Pixar. It could just be something completely different.
Yeah.
But back to your original question with the height thing. Yeah, I know that's going to be an issue because now you have this kind of giant ride, right? And you have this height, restricted. But it's also like a huge water ride. So now it's like these kids that can't go on it, and then like here's the thing, not everybody wants to get wet. That's the reason why I didn't go on Splash Mountain a lot, because although I love the ride, I'm not trying to get soaked. So I think that again, they should have made this a dark ride in Fantasyland. Maybe tear out that the whole Fantasyland theater area and put something there.
Now, here's another topic that, again, Mike, you and I talked about.
Yeah.
That we are very passionate about of Disney getting rid of, and it's those freaking virtual queue lines.
Oh my god, yes, those.
So
things.
when you take a ride like Tiana's, let's just say for research purposes that they decide to do the virtual queue when Tiana's opens up. And someone jumps on at 7 a.m., they get into the virtual queue, and their virtual queue time isn't until 8:30 at night. You're then tying that virtual queue to a water ride. Is that person necessarily that wants to get wet at 8:30 at night? Not to mention this ride is opening up at late 2024, so it's still around the winter time. Now, there are people that won't care. It's like they'll catch a chill just for the sake of saying, hey, you know what, we want to go on. But, I mean, if it's anything like how it used to be of Splash Mountain, where if you're in the front and those logs fill up and you're completely soaked,
Yeah.
how is that going to hinder a person's experience that if they wanted to get on it during the daytime, but they have no choice
Right.
but to ride it at night because that's when their virtual queue is being called?
Exactly. That's a problem, dude. That's a huge
Yeah.
problem. That's a huge problem.
I would be like, okay, at nighttime, no thank you. And I'll probably just try to give it to somebody else if I could, because I'm not going to get on a water ride and get soaked. I'm sorry, I'm not going to. I hate being wet in the first place, so I don't care. I'll just come back the next time. But that's where G, we have that luxury to do that. That family from Colorado or wherever, they don't. They're only there for a couple of days, and like what me and George were talking about is what if they are there for 5 days, right? And then what if each time they can't get it at all? Now who knows when they can come back?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It makes me wonder if they're even going to fix that a little bit of that feature, where when you go down that second drop,
I hope so.
that the log just doesn't just feel gushed with water.
Yeah, because here's the thing, here's the thing, I don't mind getting some water, like a little bit on my pants, maybe a little bit on my shirt, but not drenched, dude. Like I don't want to be swimming under the water in this ride. I'm not trying to go down the bayou that way. In that
right. Exactly.
You haven't lived the lifestyle of the Italiano yet, Mike.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. The Italiano.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Fellas, always a pleasure talking shop with you guys. Really great conversation today. I want to thank you guys for coming on. We got a lot of great stuff coming this week. But George, I will start with you, brother. The Italiano, host of our Walt Disney World show here on the channel, Citrus Corner. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. I'll give you a yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
I know, but don't worry. I'm going to give you a yeah, buddy, too. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yes, absolutely. And OG, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure as always. And you can find me on Instagram, Michael Ebba, and then you can also find me on Twitter/X at Michael Ebba 1991.
You heard the man. Follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, buddy.
There we go. There we go. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Velocicoaster going down probably for a few more weeks. Fifth park at Walt Disney World, Daddy Josh, expansions. We talked about a lot today. Comment down below. We would love to hear from you. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.
세상이 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.